your weekend was prosperous and productive and spending as much quality time with your family. I consider family to be um, people I'm close to and people that are close to me. What do we have on the menu today in our essential community? Okay, this is what we have going on in the essential community today. We're going to be discussing deeds and trust. This channel is primarily focused on estate planning, mortgage deeds, and trust. So please understand that anything related to those particular topics is what we cover. And that is the reason we cover intellectual property in a lot of details, laws, policies, procedures, and so forth concerning documents. We are planning in an estate court forum where people can bring their cases and we they can give us and allow us the power of returning to hear those cases and help them or assist them in an administrative order. This particular broadcast has been created for the purpose of um, not starting, but to officiate um, a series of content specifically concerning deeds and trusts, whether that be land deeds or deed records. And what I mean by deed records is when you purchase a vehicle, okay, there is a record of that deed. And that deed receives a birth certificate, so to speak. Okay? And a lot of times people think the paper is the deed. The paper is not the deed, it's the record of the deed. I'll give you a good example. And I'll also tell you why this is very relevant to the topic that we're going to be delving into. And you need to understand the foundational principle before we begin. When your parents, back in the day, we used to call it when people get together and mate. And you're immature in your language, you say they got together and they do the do, you know? Okay? And the Christian people in the church used to tell you every deed done in the dark will come to the light. Every deed done in the dark will come to the light. I'll repeat that again because it's very profound. Every deed done in the dark will come to the light. Okay? That's why their persona of Jesus said, I am the way, truth, and the light. Everything ends with the light. That is the perception of understanding, is what light is. Illumination of understanding. Okay? That is what it's metaphoric of. Okay? Now, when you're in court, it is essential that both sides understand that it is their responsibility to illuminate or bring to light something that the court is not aware of or have not considered in a case. This is, I'll be showing you all a recording of uh, Florida court case. And in this case, you must understand the difference in different court arenas, that some states are judicial states and some states are non-judicial states. Now, in that regard, they handle business differently. Just the not even knowing what the words mean, you can tell that they're different words. One says non, which means no judicial, non-judicial, and the other has just the plain root word judicial. Okay? So it would behoove you to understand what the word judicial means. You know, is you judged by the people or is you not judged by the people? And see, they'll use these words to confuse you. And you got to understand what grounds they're standing on so that you can speak their language, as far as understand what language they're speaking. Okay? They're speaking judicial language, or are they speaking non-judicial language? Okay? And we're watching a case specifically in a judicial state. Okay? Gotta understand, we're watching a case in a judicial state. So sometimes you'll hear information about court that does not apply to you. And that may be because you're in a non-judicial state. Okay? We'll even do a video outlining that. But this particular video is about property, foreclosure, deeds, and trust. And what's happening in this court case is incompetence. I see a lot of videos critiquing sovereigns and how efficient they are in a world that they are not familiar with. That is in itself backwards. Now, I understand that the people are critiquing the pro se aspect of it because they're looking at it in a perspective of basically placing themselves in the position of the person and trying to imagine themselves representing themselves. So when they watch videos that are perpetuated online showing and displaying the incompetence of some people who are claiming to be sovereign. Okay? Now, they're not wrong for claiming to be sovereign. What they err in is not understanding what the word sovereign means. And first and foremost, you cannot summons a sovereign. So if you allow the courts to summons you, they already know that they have some level of control over you, okay? That you believe in what's called the color of law. Now, we'll do more in-depth understanding and videos on what the color of law is, and we tend to mention it in most of our broadcasts to kind of trickle in the information so you kind of get an idea and get used to hearing that term so you understand when you watch any content or you experience in your own life that a person is acting under a color of law, you know and can and identify when that is occurring. Okay? We point it out in our lives, in our dealings, so that you can understand when it is occurring in your personal experiences. Okay? So that you don't accuse a private person of acting under a color of law. And you don't mix the two. You don't go to a private company and try to create a bill of exchange with a private company. For example, I have an appliance business. I have an appliance business. It is not a corporation. You cannot assume that all companies are corporations, okay? Because a company is not a corporation, and a corporation is not a company. The reason I said that is because when you get down to it, to the taxes and how the paperwork is handled, and if you were to have to resort to court and seeking remedy or relief in court or before a magistrate or an administrative law judge, then you would need to identify what jurisdiction the contract is in. Okay? And in that case, if I was dealing with like I've had a customer attempt to try to do a contractual agreement through email. One, where he fucked up is that my company is not a corporation. You cannot pull these stunts on anybody. Okay? Two, I don't do business by email. So when he tried to effectuate a contract with me through email without my consent, that's another thing. There was no consent. And because I didn't respond to his email, that is not, in fact, proof that his contract stands in common law. it is proof that I did not acknowledge it. It needs to be acknowledged by the parties. That's what a certified letter, it needs to be acknowledged. I can prove that I never even saw his email, never even read it. Because that's not how I do business, and I told him that. And I had proof on text message that I told him I don't do business by email. I do business by text message and direct telephone communication. And he can in no wise force me to do business in any other manner because that is my choice. Okay? That's just like people wanting to get so called out of the system and not have any current documentation of them in the system is what they're uh, endeavoring to do. And um, in that case, they are making a private choice to not do business publicly at all. At all. Not even a little bit. They turned in their social security number. They turned in their driver's license. Everything they've been given by the state, government, city, any municipality, so-called municipality, they gave it back. They returned it. And said, since this is your property, I'm giving you back your property. And you no longer have any um, holes on me with which you can draw from in creating jurisdiction. Okay? And jurisdiction is everywhere. Jurisdiction is in the air. It's assumed. It's assumed. It's in the air. I'll give you an example. Even if we had no specific traveling laws on the books that said we'll give you a ticket if you have a wreck or if you run this red light, okay? Say, for example, we didn't have no statutes, what we call laws, that governed us to the point where we had to do that. We felt that we had to do that, okay? Still in all, everybody, what I mean by everybody, that means anybody who wanted to speed down the road could do that, right? And anybody who didn't want to stop at the red light could do that. Let's say the red lights is there and there was signs or information given to each person to let you know what those red lights are for and what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to respond to those signs and signals as a courtesy to your fellow man. That's what anarchy looked like. People being responsible for themselves. And because when you speed, it is not your, or what is considered by, our statutes at this current time as speeding. It means going at a rate, this is our understanding, but that's not the real meaning of speeding. Going at a rate where you can harm somebody, all right? The speed limits are set to keep you at a speed at a rate where you can adjust based on your eye and responsive hand coordination. Okay, this is the reason why they don't want you driving impaired, because it impairs that ability to coordinate between your eye and your reaction and your hands. The wheel, directing the wheel. All right. So, in that regard, the laws uh, create a safety net for people who are irresponsible adults. Irresponsible adults are called minors by law. You're considered a minor because the law says that only a child will behave in that manner and not be considerate of others. Okay? Natural law. This is what we all agree upon naturally, that you can't do this. You cannot be allowed to do this because this creates a potential harm to us all. Okay? We don't know who kid may be walking across the street when you driving at an unreasonable rate of speed in correlation to the type of surroundings you're in. Hence the reason we have school zone reduction in rate for school zones, where the schools are, where you know where the children will be, near parks and stuff like that, where you know families are gathering with their children, school events, uh, sports events, where there is going to be a lot of pedestrians. There is automatically should be understood to be a reduced rate in speed in these areas. And I have been parked at the park for peace and tranquility, and some idiots, and they had to put speed bumps in on that street. And that don't make no sense. They had to put speed bumps for you to understand that you should not be speeding by not only a school, but it's a school and a park right there by each other. Nothing but families and children and family, children and family and people walking, pedestrian, people trying to get their exercise, trying to walk around there. And you come through and scare the devil out of them because they don't know if you going to pop a wheelie on the speed bump that's placed there for you to slow the hell down, and you speeding and uh, flying over even the speed bumps that's there. Now, I feel that the citizens should be able to capture that on camera, get evidence, and report that person. They are a witness that this person is the one is definitely committing a crime, and the police can't be everywhere, and the police many times are somewhere got somebody jacked up that has not committed any crimes, or even a potential harm. How many cases have we seen on sovereign citizens where the sovereign citizen was not even committing any harm to anyone, where they was arrested? We ain't even just talking about the miscarriages of justice that go on in the black community. We talking about just anybody who stands up for their rights. And I am a witness by my own firsthand knowledge that I have had several incidents at this point with officers who act adversely to a citizen reserving their rights respectfully. And that is a crime. That is a crime. It is unlawful to make it a crime for you to reserve your rights. Like when people try to tell you how you can and can't sign your documents. That is unlawful. The lady did me like that at the jailhouse. She said, and you better sign this, I'll tell you to sign it. And she thought I was gonna, because she threatened to put me back in jail by insinuating that I better sign it the way she said sign it. Because all the documents they gave me tried to make me sign, I put on there that that they were stealing property. I put stolen property. And they snatched the thing from me to put the rest of what I was gonna write. That is unlawful. I'm laughing, but that's serious. They don't have a right to tell me how to endorse my documents. And I'm sure that upset them that every step of the way, when they're trying to enforce contract upon me, even when they tried to take pictures and fingerprints, I closed my eyes. When they tried to take fingerprints, I refused, and I made them have to force my hand to go up there to prove that it was under duress. And that's on camera. Whenever they said go or come, I did not go until I made it clear that this is under threat, duress, and coercion. To the point the lady said, yeah, I understand. We know it's under threat, duress, and coercion. Well, while you trying to be sarcastic, now you have gotten on the record that you well know that's proof of intent right there. Malicious intent. And even how you said it was malicious and condescending and demeaning, which is evidence that can and will be used against you. And what I mean by you is the officers who was behaving in that manner. That we have a trust and a covenant with them, that they're supposed to protect and serve us, not cause us harm, not try to make us criminals, and we are law-abiding citizens. Even if you are a citizen and consider yourself a citizen, and you are in fact a law-abiding citizen, that even in their scope of policies and procedures, they are still in the wrong. That's what makes it a constitutional violation. That's what makes it a federal and a serious matter. Because even according to your own rules, you're wrong. By your own admission, you are wrong. Okay. And a lot of people need to understand how, when you're presenting your case, how important this is. I'm going to tell you why I'm getting into these details. Okay? Because I'll show you a matched level of incompetence on both sides. When you think your lawyer is defending you, I'll show you all, I'll poke all the holes. That's what the judge is doing here. When he has to ask you a lot of questions, that means this man's brief was not sufficient to cover that. That also means that there's a lot of holes in this man's representation of either when he was an attorney and a defendant, he didn't represent his client well to the point where he had to call the case on appeal. And the reason why I say he didn't represent his client well, I'm not going to place that burden up on the judge because that burden don't belong to the judge. Many times the judge called the case wrong simply because the representatives didn't present the case correctly, where he can clearly and plainly see how to rule. That is how a case is supposed to be drafted. Where the judge, if the judge this was his first case he ever done, and he had never ruled on a case before in his life, that he could look at your documents, not even know all of these laws and statutes just yet, because the judge don't know all the laws and all the statutes. They have a degree of knowledge. We got to understand that everybody involved has a degree of knowledge. I was watching a lady, she was critiquing a sovereign, and the judge was asking him questions what she thought was of competence, but it was not of competence. It was of his degree of knowledge, his degree of maturity, his degree. At what level is he operating on so that he can over usurp him? He wasn't seeking for competence. He had already declared him by the way he was talking to him, in the tone of his voice. He had declared him incompetent already. He wasn't looking for incompetent. He was just pretending that on the record, for the record. What he was doing is usurping his authority and making sure that he stayed off the subject that would trigger the sovereign to be able and allowed to speak on the record anything that would contradict his ruling. It was a strategy, a smoke screen, as she said. But not in the manner as what you may have thought and what it appeared to be. And so, by right, if the sovereign knew what was going on at all, he would have spoken up on the record and called that judge out and named his dishonor on the record, because how he was acting was in dishonor. It's called practicing law against the bench. And the young lady was not aware that that is what is going on. When she's critiquing the court procedure, she's aware of some aspects of it, okay? But we're all learning. And so in that regard, I learned a lot from her. And when she said, now I understood life to be like Monopoly, but when she said the pieces on the board were statues, I automatically looked up the word top hat statue, okay? Because I always used to pick, like a lot of people like to pick the car, okay? But a lot of times I like to pick the ship or the top hat. So I looked it up, and lo and behold, there is a such thing as a top hat. Top hat. Excuse me. Top hat act that is military uh, signal given by a military police officer when he wants to signal a point of order, okay? And make his superiors aware that something is going on down here, that I need to interrupt what's going on, and insert a point of order. And he is given and allowed a point of authority for that purpose. Okay? He's dual, that's dual accounting. He's calling to order by a point of order, right? In other words, he's making a point. So what he has to say is important, right? And he's interjecting as an authority figure on this matter. So that is his point of authority. Okay? Point of authority is when you're saying that I have a right to speak up, even though I may seem like I'm a minor. I have a right to speak up because the adult is doing something wrong. Okay? And so many times you'll hear me say, you're a minor, you're considered a minor. But do please understand that does not reduce you to not having any rights, because minors have rights, okay? You can work your minor rights until you understand how, and that'll help you mature into understanding that you'll automatically become an adult, because as you practice exercising your skills as a minor. I'll give you an example. If you have disability, or you have a disability, what society calls a disability, you are by status a minor, okay? Or considered a minor, a person we need to care for, okay, a dependent. So if if you in that status, you're getting all the benefits. That's how you exercise your rights as a minor. Get all you can get out of the system. When I was on Section 8, I got nice houses and nice townhomes and condominiums. I didn't go get no raggedy project apartment. I had the freedom to go get whatever I want. I maximized that bitch. I was even trying to buy a house with my housing voucher. And at that time, it is my understanding, well, that was what I was told, that I could not do that. But as I began, like I said, I was told that at that time. But I'm a type of person that I don't take what you say because I done found out people just say stuff to sound like they know what they talking about, but it sounds stupid. So I don't regard it as truth. And what I call circumvent. I circumvent their ass and go find out what the truth is. I used to do my mama like that all the time. Because she just say stuff other people told her, and I can tell. And I'd be like, that didn't sound right. I'll ask somebody else. That's all right. Uh, and that's just how I was. That's how I am, period. I do not accept anything. It's got to resonate in my spirit. And even if it resonates in my spirit, I'm not settled on that. I may accept that for the moment, but I'm not settled. And there's some things that I'm settled on, but and there's nothing you can deter me or present to me that will divert me from that understanding. Not at all. But what you could do is some fuckery and try to present your uh, statement as truth. But what they call in court, that's what they call in court, uh, asserting, um, offered, that you're offered, whatever you're offering, your statement, that you are offering it to us for the truth of the matter asserted, right? So what that means is that you offering your lie to be asserted in the record as truth. That's what it means. You're offering it for the truth of the matter asserted. Okay? And if the shoe don't fit, you cannot admit. Okay? That is not the what you call it, O.J. Simpson. That's a little revisionation of it. Okay? If the shoe don't fit, then you cannot admit. Do not allow people to admit evidence that's not evidence. Now we're going to get into the this is a supposedly real court case, and I do say supposedly because we got to understand, if all of these so-called statutes are by acts, then how confident are you in an act? You know, people like, it's written in a such and such and such act. Wait a minute. You did say act, didn't you? That means people acting. They're not being. And that's the reason. And when that man said, I'm not a human being, I said, nah, you done went too far, buddy. Who told you? And what kind of shenanigans they gotta go on to get on against being? Being is just being. Like people say, be yourself. You're a human, a spirit being yourself. Why are you not a human being? Okay? So are you a robot? What are you? So what I gathered from that is perhaps someone created a video and it was a deep fake. And one of the requirements that if you have created a deep fake, that you have to disclose that this is not real. Okay? Somewhere in the content, you have to disclose that this is not real. Okay? And for him to say he is not a human being, then he have technically disclosed that this is an AI depiction of a human being and that this is not really a human being talking to you in this video. Okay? That's how I can perceive that. Okay? See, so a lot of people need to be careful about how you're categorizing yourself according to what somebody said instead of having a full understanding of what the hell are you saying. Do you have to say anything? Nobody even asked, was you or was you not a human being? Why did you have to say you wasn't one? We would have assumed it. You'd have been safe in the assumption zone. But now since you have disclosed openly that you is not a human being, then why are we listening to you? Because I don't listen to AI. I tell AI what to tell me. I tell ChatGPT, don't pull up nothing on your own. Do like I'm telling you. Don't just go off uh, Wild Wild West pulling up shit like I'm a motherfucking minor and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't need you doing that. I know exactly what I'm doing. I need you to pull up the laws and the statutes that I asked you to pull up. And I need you to incorporate that in my document in the place that I told you to put it. And if you cannot do that, you are fired. We tried to create a whole law firm in ChatGPT, and that system is incompetent, to say the least. Extremely incompetent. Why would I rely on an AI when I'm the supposed uh, human being and AI is supposed to be so smart? It's supposed to help me, not be causing problems where I have to sit there keep telling you, no, don't put that. Rewrite this. Don't do that. I'm like I got a whole nother motherfucking child I'm trying to raise over here. I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask to raise your fucking child, Chat BBT. Uh, my daughter laughed at me because I don't pronounce the name right. It don't matter. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Chat GBT is trash. And I don't got time to raise your child. You should have raised your child before you put that bullshit out there in the streets like that without no manners. That motherfucker ain't got no manners. It keep your documents, hold your documents hostage. Then when it do say it's gonna uh, compile your information into a document, a doc file or a PDF, when you download the file, it ain't nothing like what you drafted in the damn platform. That part. Oh yeah, we gonna get down to the nitty gritty with it. Okay? And it's too many people that have the same testimony for any of us to ignore that AI is not all the idiots it has it cracked up to be or what they claiming it's supposed to be. So the new age, you know, I had a business partner come to my, yeah, this is it's just how you gotta use AI. And he trying to patty cake it and trying to explain to me how awesome it is because he a baby. He don't know no better. That's why it's helping him. And if the only type of people that AI can help is the people who lack understanding, well, What help is it to the intellectuals? What benefit is it to the intellectuals? I don't see the benefit in it to the intellectuals, is what I'm saying, that are seeking higher information than what they uh, have in their own database already, their own personal intellect. I'm not looking for something beneath me. I know how to draft documents already. I don't need no fucking um, AI to draft no damn document for me. The only reason I would want the damn AI to draft the document for me is to perform the task of a personal assistant, like a paralegal. A paralegal go and get law and this and that and help out the attorney with the research aspect of, and but the attorney's supposed to have enough knowledge to point them in the right direction. That's how the legal assistants start learning over a period of time. They see the patterns, and the person there up under their apprenticeship of law, of learning law practice, the practices of law, they're learning that person's style of how they approach solving a matter, okay? And then they incorporate their own way that they handle that to add, to be an asset to the attorney, to add value in the case, to see what would be, in addition to what was asked for, what would be valuable in the case. To think for themselves, to think independently of the attorney. This is why a lot of times people start off as a paralegal and then they take the bar and become an attorney because they're learning the law um, by practice, by doing it. You got to do it. And you may think, well, come on, let's just get to the court case. Well, this is the court case. The preparation before you get in the room will many times keep you out of the room. This is what I mean by incompetent in the first place. All they doing is just like a racquetball. It's just hitting the ball across the court in a mediocre manner. And it almost seems like they doing it like with a kid. You know how you don't want the kid to miss. So you kind of throw a baby throw. You know what a baby throw is, light and easy and right to their paddle where they can, feel like they really done something. Okay? And that's the way they seem to operate in these court proceedings. It's like, now I'm a baby and you a baby. Let's throw baby uh, balls across the court. Just little baby balls. This is not a rough contact sport. So don't nobody get aggressive. Don't nobody be aggressive. And don't nobody hurt nobody. We all just talking here. What? And you go into court thinking that it's really some conflict going on in this courtroom. I'm talking about these two people is at odds with each other. I'm talking about these two people ain't nothing. I'm talking about they throwing jabs. Ain't nothing friendly about their activity. You understand? This is the depiction that you get in your mind when you think of court. Because when we was coming up, they had the people's court. And you did see people at each other, and the judge had to remind them, no, don't speak to each other, speak to me. And they was acting like minors. But no, I'm talking about nitty gritty, real court shit that got to do with your life court. Come on now. Not play divorce court. I'm talking about some serious matters, estates involved. All right. We ain't talking about people divorcing that don't got no money. It ain't nothing but one sheet of one at the most two sheet of papers you got to file in the county clerk to settle that matter. All right. We talking about matters that we need to look through documents for days to determine what's really going on in the picture. We have compound interest involved. People always talking about compound interest, but they really don't even know what compound interest is. It don't have shit to do with papers or interest the way you think of interest. It has to do with what you have interest in. I said that real slow so you can get the point and the difference. It's not about interest like you think of it, the percentage sign of or the rate of interest. It's what you're thinking in your mind. It's the rate that they've assigned to your interest. They've given your interest a value. So to accept that as a number, you would first have to understand what the number means. Like, people are against high interest rates, okay? But the only problem with that is this. If you don't have no... yeah, I know I got some new shit going on. The only problem with that is if you don't have no interest, then you don't have no interest. You don't have uh, no equitable stake in the matter, okay? And that's what makes any deal not equitable, okay? It's not equitable. If you don't have any interest, then I didn't say paying interest. Notice I didn't say if you wasn't paying interest. Because the reason why people are against interest is because they don't know what interest means. And that's a fact, Jack. Also, people are against interest because they don't see it as benefiting them. As, for example, with the banks, they're okay with charging you interest, but they are not okay with paying you your interest. Right? Got it? All right. Now, This court procedure is about proof. No proof of contract, no proof of trust, no proof of covenant. Okay? You have to have proof. They didn't have a testimony, anyone to testify that this private trust exists for the purposes of what? Okay, for what permissible purpose? And they did not have a person to testify that they had firsthand knowledge of the fact that the trust exists for the purposes of holding the note or mortgage to this specific contract, because it could exist and don't have anything to do with this contract. You have to tie in the relationship. Just like a person find out what your family is by your name. That's your relationship to your family, right? And they try to tie you in to who you related to. And as with the deed of a contract for a mortgage note, the note go with the mortgage, the loan. Okay, the mortgage is the dead entity, the fake entity. All right, the fictitious instrument, the fictitious instrument is the supposedly the money that is due. Okay, and the reason why it is a fictitious instrument is because any type of documents that they can present to you and make a claim that it states that there is an amount due, what they cannot do is show you on that document a negative sign by the balance. Oh, they can deduct all day long. That's what, the minus, when you subtract, that's how they trick you into thinking that a minus is a negative. Okay? I learned that from Mansa. This is how they trick you into uh, turning a, a positive into a negative in your mind. You never saw on your bill a negative sign, but they told you owe or you need to pay or use these type of words. Okay? In and around the conversation, but it's not what's on paper. Okay? That's not what they wrote on paper. They said it was past due. They didn't say you owe. They say it was past due. They changed the words on you. Also, even if they say you owe, they never have the name of the person by the words you owe. That could be a transfigured way of saying I owe you, the way they wrote it, but you didn't even read it or how they said it. But I guarantee you, if they used the word owe, it was said in a manner where it was really, if you read it right, it meant I owe you. It was a I owe you. That's what it was. And it said, since I owe you, here's your check, coupon, whatever you want to call it. You tear that off, fill it out, return it, redeem the value. And how do you redeem the value? Well, it's going to have the amount on there. If it's a blank check, you got to learn how to fill in a blank check. When we was in school, we learned how to fill out a blank check, okay? And we had home economics and stuff like that. And a lot of these kids are missing out on having these life skills being taught in the schools. And some schools still have it. And we're thankful for that. But the parents need to teach their children life skills. You need to stop telling your child that they're a child. Because if you keep telling your child that they're a child, they're your child, and that they're a subject to your authority, they're gonna learn authority abuse because that's what you are doing. You are abusing your authority and not allowing them individuality, not allowing them to make choices so they get used to being, so that they get used to being their own person and making their own decision. Ask them instead of tell them, I'm finna go get you some juice. Ask them, what would you have to drink? If you are asserting your parental authority, you offer something that you know is valuable to them. You don't offer force no soda on your child. Huh, take this soda. I done bought that soda. You better drink that soda. What? You're forcing bad health on your child? That's incompetence. And in that regard, since in that scenario you wouldn't even thought of that as incompetence, um, you got to understand these people who are trying to um, make sure that the color of law is considered, keeps being considered as law, that you do not ever understand that you are responsible for your actions in every way, especially if you say you're sovereign. And everything you do, say, and do will be used against you. I've had it done. I mean, they try to use everything against me. Okay? But my story checks out. I'm an honorable person in private. My story checks out. And that's the reason why a lot of people run, they hide, they don't comment, um, they get channels and stuff like that and fake names and stuff because they're still fearful. When the Bible says that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, that's the tongue, of love, that's the truth, and soundness of mind. That's reasonable thinking. Reasonable thinking. Anybody can think reasonable. You know, if I have a conflict of understanding with somebody, I've learned to say, look, okay, how are you thinking about this? So that I can understand how the person is thinking about it. Because I've already detected that there's some contrary perception. All right. And then once if they are able to articulate their perspective well enough to relay it to me, then I can then shape shift my understanding, not to be compliant to their understanding, but so that I can first get on their level, and then I can speak their language and let them know, and bring, and hopefully bring them over into my world. But I want to first know what grounds you're standing on. All right. And when people wait until they get to appellate court to uh, holler standing, standing is the first thing. When you look at any rules, court rules of practice, all right, and they have it on their websites, and they have their own policies and procedures that they go by on a general daily practice, okay? And it's based upon the judge that's ruling that house, okay? And how he think laws should be operated, efficiently. So, or whoever is over that court now, or the conglomerate of people have decided this, okay? That's really the way it is. So, a lot of people act like this is the only thing they can do because they don't know no better. They really don't know. Stop going in these courts thinking that these judges know the law. They do not. A lot of them don't even know a fucking thing about the Constitution. Not a fucking thing. Okay? So you stupid. It makes you stupid for going in there unprepared to deal with people that are stupid. And they're only going to try to make you look stupid because they all stupid on the same page. Okay? What I mean by they stupid on the same page is they all in cahoots with their stupidity. You there representing your own truth that they're trying to declare as stupidity. Okay? And unintelligible. What the law calls unintelligible. And what they're doing is unintelligible and inhumane. Okay? So you need to stand your grounds based on that without ever saying it. And if you do say that, say it in that manner, that what they're speaking is unintelligible, and then explain why. Just like the lady was saying, the judge was saying, this is a judge now. It's how you people make themselves look stupid, trying to make somebody else look stupid. And he said, and then he probably proud to put that online, thinking I was waiting for this, he said. And I guess to cream a sovereign, to just drag you through the mud. Really? You're an honorable. I'm supposed to call you Your Honor? Is that what we're doing? I'm supposed to call you and refer to you in trust as an honorable judge, as an honorable justice of peace. And you said you was waiting to create an adverse situation with a sovereign, a citizen of the community, the person you took an oath, the person you took an oath to, to respect and trust and hold their estate in trust, in care. That's the person that you just could not wait to cause harm to? If that ain't malicious and egregious, the most egregious act and miscarry of justice, I don't know what is. And in reference to the person who said that he was a sovereign, notice that man pulled that shit on you because it make him look good because he see that you stupid. You is stupid. And you going out here sound like you might be doing some stuff you don't got no business that we should be aware of. The sovereign community need to be aware of because you misrepresenting us. And we okay with him creaming you. And we okay with him creaming you in the public. And the only thing that uh, doesn't bring him to justice, the need for something to be, for him to be sanctioned for his actions, because he did display sanctionable actions on camera, online for everybody to judge. The real, we the people to judge. The real we the people to judge and see his actions was dishonorable. And he needs to be stripped of his authority to continue to do that. And he have a whole channel bragging and doing this continuous behavior. Okay? But the only thing that does not give rise to that type of action in this case is because it's what the law describes as unclean hands. The sovereign, so-called sovereign in this case, has unclean hands. That's why I say you got to be honorable. Talking about you sovereign. You got to be honorable. Fuck a sovereign. You need to be honorable. You don't even know what sovereign mean if you don't know you need to be, if somebody got to instruct you to be honorable. And then he lied on the record and said that he handled his own case. He did not mention any type of documentation of defense or anything that he entered into the record. And then he flat out lied and said he defended himself and it was dismissed. He defended himself and it was dismissed. Are you serious right now? And that's the only reason why he was happy to act bad. He knew that he was immune from prosecution in your case because of your acts of dishonor. It counts. They cancel each other out. It's like a set off. They set each other off on the books. You owe him. Well, he owed you first. Then you violated. No, you violated first. Then they violated you. Then you violate. I mean, back and forth violation of each other. Unclean hands. Both sides. Unclean hands. But where the level, where you meet his level of it's not unfair or undue, it's because you presented yourself that you knew what you was doing. You did that to yourself because you lied on the record again of your competence level to represent yourself. And you furthermore directly afterwards prove that you do not have the competence level. You sound like a little kid on the record, just letting him say all kinds of matters of ridiculous stuff that he is not even allowed by law to do, which show and prove when you did not object to any of it, not one time did you object to the proceedings. And you answered his question like a little kid, not like he was being respectful, but like a little kid. I understand you was trying to be respectful, but you don't understand this is not that. You need to learn how to call a point of authority by your truth. You need to learn how to call a point of order by the truth reigns. That's what sovereign means. The truth of the law reigns. Not you, the truth of the law. Dummy. Sit your ass down somewhere. You try. Good try, baby. You at least trying. Sit your ass down somewhere and learn a little more before you get back up. Don't be going in them courthouses talking about you defending yourself. Just pay them people. If you sovereign, you have an estate, just pay the people and be done with them cases. But you going to have to mind somebody. Oh, yeah. When I say you going to have to mind somebody, I don't mean you going to have to mind me. All I'm saying is that if you are not giving yourself good instructions, then you need to find someone that can uh, help you and be a guide for you. That's why the Bible says sheep without a shepherd, they lost. You need a shepherd. Needs a guide. That's what a shepherd is, a guide. It's not to control you, it's a guide to help keep you from harm, to safeguard you. You know, you free range sheep. But at the same time, you need somebody to say, hey, don't go over there. It's danger over there. Don't go over there. And use that shepherd's rod to pull you back. He don't put himself in, the shepherd don't put themselves in danger to help you. What they do is they use the rod of correction. That's what the Bible speaks about, the rod of correction. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction will drive it far from him. Okay? I said something right there, I know. Bobbers and Bills. Bobbers and Bills. Hang tight, Frank. We live. Um, Bobbers and Bills is what I'm talking about, you know. The Bible says that because the Bible is about law, money, business, profit, family, estates, all of that. Hold on one second.